Lost Leaf by O. Henry. In a small part of the city west of Washington Square, the streets have gone wild. They turn in different directions. They are broken into small pieces called places. One street goes across itself 1 or 2 times. A painter once discovered something possible and valuable about the street. Suppose a painter had some painting material for which he had not paid. Suppose he had no money. Suppose a man came to get the money. The man might walk down the street and suddenly meet himself coming back without having received a cent. This part of the city is called Greenwich Village. And to the old Greenwich Village, the painters soon came. Here they found rooms they like, with good light and at a low cost. Sue and Johnsy lived at the top of the building with 3 floors. One of these young women came from Maine, the other from California. They had met at a restaurant on 8th Street. There they discovered that they liked the same kind of art, the same kind of food, and the same kind of clothes. So they decided to live and work together. That was in the spring. Toward winter, a cold stranger entered Greenwich Village. No one could see him. He walked around, touching one person here and another there with his icy fingers. He was a bad sickness. Doctors called him pneumonia. On the east side of the city, he hurried, touching many people. But in the narrow streets of Greenwich Village, he did not move so quickly. Mr. Pneumonia was not a nice old gentleman. A nice old gentleman would not hurt a weak little woman from California. But Mr. Pneumonia touched Johnsy with his cold fingers. She lay on the bed, almost without moving, and she looked through the window at the wall of the house next to hers. One morning, the busy doctor spoke to Sue alone in the hall, where Johnsy could not hear. "She has a very small chance," he said. "She has a chance if she wants to live. If people don't want to live, I can't do much for them. You little lady, your little lady has decided that she is not going to get well. Is there something that is troubling her?" "She always wanted to go to Italy and paint a picture of the Bay of Naples," said Sue. "Paint? Not paint. Is there anything worth being troubled about?" "A man?" "A man," said Sue. "Is a man worth?" "No, doctor, there is not a man." "Is it weakness?" said the doctor. "I will do all I know how to do. But when a sick person begins to feel that he is going to die, half my work is useless. Talk to her about new winter clothes. If she were interested in the future, her chances would be better." After the doctor had gone, Sue went into the workroom to cry. Then she walked into Jancy's room. She carried some of her painting material, and she was singing. Jancy lay there, very thin and very quiet. Her face was turned towards the window. Sue stopped singing. thinking that Johnsy was asleep. Sue began to work. As she worked, she heard a low sound again and again. She went quickly to the bedside. Johnsy's eyes were open wide. She was looking out of the window and counting back. 12, she said, and a little later, 11, and then 10, and 9, and then 8 and 7, almost together. Sue looked out of the window. What was there to count? There was only the side wall of the next house, a short distance away. The wall had no window. An old tree grew against the wall. The cold breath of winter had already touched it. Almost all its leaves had fallen from its stalk branches. "What is it, dear?" asked Sue. 6, said Chansey, in a voice still lower. "They're falling faster now. 3 days ago, there were almost 100. It hurt my head to count them. But now it's easy. There goes another one. There are only 5 now." "5? What, dear? Tell your Sue." "Leaves on the tree. When the last one falls, I must go too. I've known that for 3 days. Didn't the doctor tell you?" "Oh, I never heard of such a thing," said Sue. "It doesn't have any sense in it. What does an old tree have to do with you? Or with your getting well? And you used to love that tree so much. Don't be a little fool. The doctor told me your chances for getting well. He told me this morning. He said you had very good chances. Try to eat a little now, and then I'll go back to work. And then I can sell my picture, and then I can buy something more for you to eat to make you strong." "You don't have to buy anything for me," said Johnsy. She still looked out of the window. "There goes another. No, I don't want anything to eat. Now there are 4. I want to see the last one fall before night. Then I'll go too." "Johnsy, dear," said Sue, "will you promise me to close your eyes and keep them closed? Will you promise not to look out of the window until I finish working? I must have this picture ready tomorrow. I need the light. I can't cover the window." "Couldn't you work in the other room?" asked Johnsy coldly. "I'd rather be here by you," said Sue. "And I don't want to look at those slaves." "Tell me as soon as you have finished," said Johnsy. She closed her eyes and lay white and still. "Because I want to see the last leaf fall. I have done enough waiting. I have done enough thinking. I want to go sailing down, down, like one of those leaves." "Try to sleep," said Sue. "I must call Bevan to come up here. I want to paint a man in this picture, and I'll make him look like Behrman. I won't be gone a minute. Don't try to move till I come back." Old Behrman was a painter who lived on the first floor of their house. He was past 60. He had had no success as a painter. For 40 years he had painted without ever painting a good picture. He had always talked of painting a great picture, a masterpiece, but He had never yet started it. He got a little money by letting others paint pictures of him. He drank too much. He still talked of his great masterpiece, and he believed that it was his special duty to do everything possible to help Sue and Jansi. Sue found him in his dark room, and she knew that he had been drinking. She could smell it. She told him about Jansi and the leaves on the vine. She said that she was afraid that Jansi would indeed sail down, down like a leaf. Her hold on the world was growing weaker. Old Behrman shouted his anger over such an idea. "What?" he cried. "Are there such fools? Do people die because leaves drop off a tree? I have not heard of such a thing. No, I will not come up and sit while you make a picture of me. Why do you allow her to think such a thing? That poor little Chauncey. She is very sick and weak," said Sue. "The sickness has put these strange ideas into her mind. Mr. Behrman, if you won't come, you won't. But I don't think you're very nice. This is like a woman," shouted Behrman. "Who said I will not come? Go, I come with you. For half an hour I have been trying to say that I will come. God, this is not any place for someone so good as Chauncey to lie sick. Some day I shall paint my masterpiece and we shall all go away from here. God, yes." Chauncey was sleeping when they went up. Sue covered the window and took Behrman into the room. There they looked out of the window fearfully at the tree. Then they looked at each other for a moment without speaking. A cold rain was falling, with a little snow in it too. Behrman sat down, and Sue began to paint. She worked through most of the night. In the morning, after an hour's sleep, she went to Chauncey's bedside. Chauncey, with wide open eyes, was looking towards the window. "I want to see," she told Sue. Sue took the cover from the window. But after the beating rain and the wild wind that had not stopped through the whole night, there still was one leaf to be seen against the wall. It was the last on the tree. It was still dark green near the branch, but at the edges it was turning yellow with age. There it was hanging from a branch nearly 20 feet above the ground. "It is the last one," said Chauncey. "I thought it will surely fall during the night. I heard the wind. It will fall today, and I shall die at the same time." "Dear, dear Chauncey," said Sue, "think of me. If you won't think of yourself, what would I do?" But Chauncey did not answer. The most lonely thing in the world is a soul when it is preparing to go on its far journey. The ties that held her to friendship and to earth were breaking one by one. The day slowly passed. As it grew dark, they could still see the leaf hanging from its branch against the wall. And then, as the night came, the north wind began again to blow. The rain still beat against the windows. When it was light enough the next morning, Chauncey again commanded that she be allowed to see. The leaf was still there. Chauncey lay for a long time looking at it, and then she called to Sue, who was cooking something for her to eat. "I've been a bad girl, Sue," said Chauncey. "Something has made that lost leaf stay there to show me how bad I was. It was, it is strong to want to die. I'll try to eat now, but first bring me a looking glass so that I can see myself. And then I'll sit up and watch you cook. An hour later, she said, Sue, someday I hope to paint the Bay of Naples. The doctor came in the afternoon. Sue followed him into the hall outside Chauncey's room to talk to him. The chances are good, said the doctor. He took Sue's thin, shaking hand in his. Give her good care and she'll get well. And now I must see another sick person in this house. His name is Behrman, a painter, I believe. Pneumonia, too. Mike is an old, weak man, and he is very ill. There is no hope for him, but we take him to the hospital today. We'll make it as easy for him as we can. The next day, the doctor said to Sue, She's safe. You have done it. Food and care now. That's all. And that afternoon, Sue came to the bed where Johnsy lay. She put one arm around her. I have something to tell you, she said. Mr. Behrman died of pneumonia today in the hospital. He was ill only 2 days. Someone found him in the morning of the first day in his room. He was helpless with pain. His shoes and his clothes were wet and as cold as ice. Everyone wondered where he had been. The night had been so cold and wild. And then they found some things. There was a light that he had taken outside. And there were his materials for painting. There was paint, green paint and yellow paint. And look out of the window, dear, at the lost leaf on the wall. Didn't you wonder why it never moved when the wind was blowing? Oh, my dear, it is Behrman's great masterpiece. He painted it there the night that the lost leaf fell. So, the story, The Lost Leaf, is based on a true sacrifice of a man who led a lonely life, who was never successful as a painter, but before his last breath, he painted his masterpiece and left this world. So the story is all about the themes on friendship, sacrifice, love, and care. So this is O. Henry's most famous story, which I narrated to you. I will come up with more such stories. So my next story will be The Gift of Magi, again written by O. Henry, which is going to be narrated by me tomorrow. Thank you. Please do subscribe this channel for more and more audio literature. So after every story, I'm going to talk about the difficult words or the glossary, which you'll find difficult to understand and to add to your vocabulary as well. So I will be enlisting a few words along with their meaning so that you'll find the story easier to understand, and along with that you'll learn new vocabulary words as well. So the first word here is quaint. Quaint actually means attractively unusual or old-fashioned. The next word is prowl. It can be used for a person or animal. So it means move around restlessly or especially in search of or as if in search of some kind of prey. Okay. Gable, the part of a wall that encloses the end of a pitched roof. Greenwich Village, of course, it's the name of a village, a district actually in the New York City on the lower west of Manhattan. Traditionally, it is associated with writers and artists, etc. This is why O. Henry has used the name of this particular district. So, this means that this story has a lot of connections with the real life names and the real life situations of people and artists. Pewter, a grey alloy of tin with copper and antimony. Shafting dish, a metal pan with an outer pan of hot water used for keeping food warm. Pneumonia is actually a lung inflammation caused by bacterial or viral infection in which the air sacs fill with pus and may become solid. So pneumonia is used as and is given human characteristics and is used as a technique in literature uh, to give some non-living object some living characteristics. So in throughout this story, O. Henry has talked about pneumonia as pneumonia is a person. Chivalric is actually is displaying courteous behavior or would be expecting of an ideal knight. So basically, this whole story uh, is compiled and is brought together by O. Henry using a lot of literary devices, which has made this story really beautiful. So, O. Henry has used a lot of symbols, allegory, and motifs, metaphors and similes, irony, and very beautiful imagery to bring this story up. Uh, so, say for example, uh, in terms of metaphors and similes, you'll find the story is very rich um, as per the use of metaphors and similes are concerned. So, like Mr. Pneumonia, a metaphor is used here for Mr. Pneumonia. Alright, O. Henry personifies pneumonia in this story using metaphorical language that compares the illness, okay, to an invisible stranger. Like, say, for example, with icy fingers, etc. Fragile as a leaf is again a simile. So, while O. Henry describes the condition of when Sue visits Mr. Bam and she tells him about Johnson's condition, so that actually at that place the simile is used. So Sue compares Johnson's fragility to that of a leaf. Okay, talking about the vulnerable condition of the ivy leaves as well as the ailing friend. These are some examples of metaphors, similes, which has beautified this story to a greater extent. Now, the irony, here, which is used, is actually situational irony. So, why situational irony is because Behrman dies while John C. lives, but in the beginning of the story and the way story moves further, the audience or the readers might have got an impression that John C. will die with pneumonia, but just the opposite happens. Mr. Behrman dies and John C. lives towards the end. So that is a situational irony. Then the imagery has again made this whole story very, very beautiful. Like, say for example, the visual imagery which is used for the ivy leaves, specifically to describe that creeper on the wall. So, in the entire story, and the the imagery which is used to describe the creeper is very, very beautiful. And then some other literary elements that you'll find in this particular story is that this whole story is revolves around realistic fiction, right? Though it's a short story, but it describes maybe something which has real connotations, and it has very close connections with the actual conditions of the artists. Okay, the setting of the story is in Greenwich Village, like earlier also I told you, the New York City, and it talks about 1900s when the city was hit by pneumonia epidemic. Now this story is narrated from a third person's perspective, and the point of view that is used in this story is that of Zeus. So Zeus, this whole story is narrated through third person's perspective. The point of view stays very, very close to the friend Sue, John C's friend Sue. So the tone and the mood of the story is ironic by nature, and the mood is largely pessimistic rather than being optimistic. Though towards the end it becomes really heartwarming, okay, and a very sorrowful and sad mood, along with a pinch of joy for the two friends, because the friend recovers from pneumonia. The protagonist and antagonist in this particular story is the two protagonists, John C. and Sue, but there's no antagonist. But you'll find pneumonia somewhere is termed as an antagonist, basically. And the real protagonist, the real hero towards the end, becomes Mr. Berman, right? So the major conflict in this story, the major struggle in this story is between Johnsy and not nature, but actually her superstitious belief, and the fate that as soon as the ivy leaf, the last leaf falls, she's going to die. And then the climax of the story is actually when Johnsy learns that the lost leaf was in fact painted by Mr. Behrman. So that person has sacrificed his life to save her. So that is actually the climax. Then one very interesting literary device is used, which very few people know about, is foreshadowing. So when Mr. Behrman proclaims to Sue that someday he's going to paint the masterpiece, that actually foreshadows that he has to play a very brave role towards the end of the story, and the same thing happens. So all this particular dialogue from Mr. Behrman actually foreshadows what's going to happen in future or towards the end of the story. uh, so um, so overall, a lot of illusions. This story is a compilation and a mix and match of a lot of illusions, imagery, paradox, parallelism, similes, metaphors, personification, etc. A very beautiful story, narrated very beautifully. So I hope this uh, whole vlog of mine is going to help a lot of students, and will also be used by people who really love to listen to short stories, and they really follow O. Henry's short stories. So if you don't like to read, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, because I'm going to come up with a lot of audio short stories by O. Henry and by other authors, and even other literary books that I'm going to come up with. very, very soon and regularly. So, if you really wish to listen to me, um, please be regular on my channel and do subscribe my channel, hit a like button, and do comment and write to me which other stories do you want me, or which other literary works do you want me to narrate, uh, or convert it into audio, and what works you want me to explain or give a summary of. Specifically, students can comment me in the comment box if you really want um, to have more and more audio lessons of stories or of literary texts. You can name the literary text there in the comment box, along with a request if you really want me to give a very quick overview, like I have given of this particular short story by O. Henry. A very short overview, a brief overview, but yes, which will give a thorough explanation and an idea of the whole literary work, what the work is all about. So, if you have liked my work, again, please do subscribe so that you regularly get the updates of whatever I am going to post on my channel. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please do comment in the comment section and write to me. So my next story will be again from written by O. Henry, which will be The Gift of Magi. So I am going to upload The Gift of Magi tomorrow along with its explanation, which will again help not just the students but also fun-loving, entertainment-loving people who really want to listen to the short stories through my voice, in my voice. Thank you so much once again for listening to me. Bye bye. Good night. Or if you're listening to the story during the day or in the morning, then have a nice day. Keep listening.